So what's up, everybody? It's BSP. So today I'm going to talk about what you need to think about before you purchase an Akiya in Japan. I'll probably call this video, I don't know, community involvement, something like that. I'll come up with a name after I watch it as I upload my videos right now. But I just came across a video on Japan on a news source here that was talking about people moving to rural areas in Japan from the big cities. With the remote jobs that are growing in Japan for Japanese, they're starting to use that to live outside the big cities, outside the metro areas. They want to raise their children in healthy environments, or where they can get in touch with nature, enjoy the outdoors, enjoy the space, things like that, right? So, foreigners coming in are not the only ones looking for that. Japanese living in Japan are also looking for that type of life. Now, this particular article had a village in a place called Fukui Prefecture, and the village's name is Eada Town. And they, before the government had a program where, as they do now, where they're offering you money and incentives to move to rural areas because, everyone knows that these rural areas are depopulating very quickly, right, as people leave and die off. Well, this particular village, they have about 2,300 people. Now, keep in mind that the number of people, because, and this is just one village, this is just one area, but there are a lot of areas in Japan like this, trust me, in the rural communities that have these types of things. Now, this particular area, they had 7 rules. So before you move to the area, they printed out their rules on pamphlets and whatnot they give out to people moving there. And at that point, this is over a year ago, they had like 20 people a month moving to the community or somewhere around there. So the first rule is, of course, be a responsible resident of Eada. Be aware of chores subject to rural living. Number 3, don't bring urban habits. Interesting how they say that. Number 4, be willing to support the community. Number 5, accept that you are watched and judged. Number 6, be willing to build intimate relationships. And number 7, be willing to help out during natural disasters. Now, I agree with some of these rules here. As you know, Japan is a rule-based country, but I'm going to give you my what I agree on, what I don't agree on. So, number 1, be a responsible resident. Well, you want to be a responsible resident of anywhere you live in Japan. If it be it Tokyo, be it Osaka, whatever, be it Sapporo, Fukuoka, you want to be a responsible resident because, you're a citizen of a locale in Japan, and like my responsibility, I'll give you an example, would be to make sure that I don't speed around children and put anybody in harm's way, or I'm just throwing it out there real quick. The first thing popped in my head, or I don't injure anybody, or I don't commit any crimes. To me, that's a responsible citizen, right? Now this one, be aware of chores unique to rural living. I wrote this shit down because I wanted to remember what I said. So, be responsible. So, I live in a city of 181,000. So, my community I wouldn't consider rural. But what I'm getting at here is when you live in these towns, then you live in communities within the towns. And the communities are a lot smaller. So, like, where I'm a member of my local neighborhood, and then when I move to my new neighborhood, I'll be a member of that local neighborhood. And usually, local neighborhood communities comprise about 25 households. And keep in mind, Japan, they have a hierarchical system from the Sengoku times, no matter what. They had the class system, but they still have that hierarchical. The class system doesn't exist anymore, but the hierarchical system does still exist. So there's always somebody that's in the local community that's even more powerful than any political leader you can throw their way, because people respect them and they've been following these people for a long time. So that's part of the thing of being aware of be aware of the chores unique to rural living. So I want to talk about this, be aware of the chores unique to rural living, because a lot of people from the U.S. and other countries are starting to come over here and to purchase these Akiyas. And I may even call this video, purchasing an Akiya, you need to really watch what you're doing, or just beware, or whatever the case I will call it. But they come in and they just find something online, or they talk to real estate agents, say, hey, there's a nice Akiya in such and such a rural ass village somewhere in nowhere, Japan, with about 3,000 inhabitants and things of that nature, right? 20,000, whatever the case may be. They go out there, they look at the property, they're like, okay, yeah, I like it. They go ahead and buy it. Like this one guy that I'm well aware of, he spent, at the time he bought it, it was 5,000 US, no, I'm sorry, it was 35,000 US dollars. He bought out there, and somewhere around here, going out there, Yamaguchi Prefecture. And so he said he bought it. He had the house, he had the storage room on, and he had land and whatnot. So that right there, okay, that, you know, yay or nay, whether it's a good price or not, okay, to an American, that's a good price. But what I was shocked at was, because I looked at the pictures, I said, okay, this is what he did, this is what he bought. And then I saw later on that it was a lot of carpentry work done. He basically had the place redone. And at the end, he said he spent, at that time, 213,000 US dollars. 213,000 US dollars, which I know from being in Japan, or for the work that he had done, that is way too much. He would have been much better off getting himself a new home. But, you know, some people, they want to live in the rural area. They want the essence. They want to own an older Japanese home. I get that. Okay, so if you're going to do that, then we got to go to these rules, because each community, they have different set of rules. They may not write them down or put them in pamphlets, but trust me, each one of those rules will come out at a certain point, and you're living in that village or area. So, you know, for example, everybody's gonna be friendly, they're gonna be happy that you're moving there. Some people are gonna feel uncomfortable, shy, but they're still gonna be like, okay, great, somebody's making use of this house that wasn't lived in for years, right? But what will happen is, slowly but surely, you'll start to see how things work. You'll start to see the hierarchy, like who's the man in the village. Like all of a sudden, or they'll be pointing you to, oh yeah, you got to go talk to Mr. Tanaka because he has some ideas for you. No, Mr. Tanaka's role as the community leader is to tell you what the rules are like what's going on. What are you supposed to be doing? What do we expect out of you in this community? Now, some Americans may live there, or people may live in that non-Japanese may live there for a couple years. Everything's going well. They spent money. They gave to the local community because they spent, like I said, this guy spent $230,000 on local carpenter, and people know that. They know that he involved other people. He paid people money. Okay, that's okay. But after a couple years, when that shit wears off, he's going to be required to do certain things in the community, and that's where that be aware of chores unique to rural living. And that could mean like anything, like from helping to clean up the schools, emptying trash, cleaning up the local the landscape, not just your own landscape, but citywide landscape, things, all kinds of things could pop up, you know, participating in festivals. And a lot of these rules in these communities are mandatory. Yes, it depends on the size and things, but they're usually mandatory rules, and they're expecting you to follow those rules. And they, like I said, if they're a Westerner, they're going to give you a little bit more time. Okay, the person is non-Japanese, so we need to feel them out. They're basically just feeling you out. How to communicate with you is not. There is no question that they're going to get the point across to you what you need to be doing, but they're trying to feel out how they communicate with you. So you'll get invited over to people's places, or you'll eat out with people. You'll be involved in the community. You'll feel good, like, oh yeah, people invite me over. Yeah, they're inviting you over because they're fattening you up for the kill. Basically, then they're going to drop the bomb on you at one of these invites and say, hey, you know, we got this, and that coming up, and we need you to do this, and that. And then you may be feeling like, you know, a people pleaser, and because you want to please your community, right? And you're like, okay, great, yeah, I'm all for it, man. Yeah, the festival, yeah, I'll do that. You want to carry this? Yeah. Well, you're not only going to be carrying something in the festival. There is a lot of preparation. And what you're going to find out, and I'm just using that example, is that you need to spend a lot of your time to prepare for this. And Japanese are very meticulous when it comes to these events, because they're competing with others from around their local city or town or whatever, and they want to win these things. These people, these events are graded. They're not just walking around, parading around. These events get graded every year, and then at the end of the year, I mean, when they're done, the people that win are going to be the shit talkers, and they're going to move higher up. See, on to what they can say or do. And Japanese, that's a very big thing in communities. A very big thing is you have to be, who has the most power, who has the most strength, who's the winner. That's how things work in Japan. So if you're going to get out there and you're going to spend all this money on Akiya, you need to do your research before you move into that area and find out what's going on. For example, you need to understand the population. You can go to the local town office or city office, and they have posted up somewhere how many people live in the town. I know as soon as I walk in the Georgia City office, I walk in through the doors. I look, there's this big, great hallway. I look to the left, there's a receptionist right there, and right behind her to her right, there is the number of people living in Joetsu, and then there's number of households, and then next to they say people leaving, like men leaving, women leaving, households, families, whatever. And you see all numbers are minus right now. So when I got here last year, it was like 182,000. Now it's 181,000. I am seeing more people. So the numbers may go up for next month because I am seeing more people, younger couples moving out here, building or buying up existing homes in Georgia City because it's an easier thing to do in this city. But anyway, yeah, you should be able to see how many people live in your town. And what the red flag for you is when you see minuses, especially in the small. In the city our size, we're not too concerned with minuses because we know that goes back and forth. But when you're coming to a community of 20,000 people and you look on that and you see that it's negative 155 this month, next month is negative 20, then what you should see, if you see, because like I said, that Eada village, you have 20 people. They said they claimed that 20 people a month moving there. So if you remember the numbers, you see on there it says minus 150 this month, and then next month it says minus 130 instead of 150, then that means, okay, maybe 20 more people moved in to offset that average of minus 150 every month, right? So you can kind of figure it out after a few months and do the math. That's why I highly recommend you do your research, because if you see people leaving, then something is fishy. Something is fishy in the air. And, a lot of these communities, like I said, they won't print the rules. Like Eada. Eada printed the rules for everybody before they moved there. A lot of communities won't print the rules. They won't expect you to know the rules, but you will eventually know what the rules are. And I'm going to give you an example. I always got an example for shit. So where we live in our community, we moved here last June. And, my wife has never lived away from her parents or had to, live in her own place, since she was an adult, right, in Japan. She, of course, lived in her own place with me in the States, but when we got married, she was living with her mom and dad, and right after, as soon as she graduated from college, a few months later, we were married, right? So this is her first time experiencing this community thing in Japan as an adult. And so we knew from her parents that we had to go around and talk to everyone. Of course, that's what was recommended to us anyway. The people that got us the home, the Oya-san, which is the owner of our house, okay, you need to go around and you need to talk to everybody. So we went around and gave out little cookie gifts or whatever to our 25 households. Some people weren't there, so we put in the mailbox a little letter, say, hey, well, we're here, our name is so-and-so. So, of course, everybody from the first few days, they knew who we were. So when they see you throwing away trash in the recycle bin, they know that you're in the community. You're not trying to just dump your trash off on someone, right? That's number one. See, so already I knew that most of the rules that were attached when we moved in our community were, hey, make sure that you recycle your garbage right? And in Joetsu City, ours is a lot stricter than a lot of communities in Japan. We're separating everything from paper to aluminum-looking paper to, plastic products to like namagomi, which is raw garbage, moeyasu-gomi, which is burnable garbage, paper days, battery days, you name it, we got everything. So you already get that thrown in your face the first day that you move in the community. You already know that. And then as you start living this, we started living here, we started realizing there was other rules under the table, of course you keep quiet at night, you don't make a lot of noise, which we don't anyway. When you roll into your community, like I like to play my music. I mean, my music be like up, especially, I'm in jamming, and then I get to the community. When I get to that red light, I always turn it down as I'm driving through. I don't disturb anybody, when I'm in my community. And I think I even started doing that when I was in the U.S. But that helps. So you get to see how that works. Then you start to understand that, when it's your time to clean up that recycle area. They all have this little recycle area. It's basically just a large gated area. Not large, but just like a small gated thing where you kind of lift up, and there's 2 doors on it. You put your stuff, garbage left or right, that kind of thing. So, once a month you get to clean that. And then they got this board coming around, of information board, that you have to read every month. You have to check off, and then you have to pass it on to the next person. So you're spreading information around. They also let you know that there's community events coming up, and they want to know if you're going to participate. If you are, and you also pay. You pay into that community if you're going to participate, and you also pay monthly fees for your or yearly fees for your community that you belong to, just to make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be, as far as, that goes toward like those community events, or it goes toward, maintaining that garbage thing, or whatever the case may be. So these are little things compared to what you, as a foreigner buying an Akiya, living in a rural area, you're gonna come across way more rules and commitments than that. So don't bring urban habits. They're going to tell you not to bring your urban habits. And urban habits, we Americans, and I'm speaking for Americans because I'm an American. And I'm proud to be an American. I love my American individualism. But, in Japan, American individualism runs into its challenges here. I'm not, like I said, and I always say, I'm not here to change Japan. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to live the life that I choose to live. And I'm not going to let anybody stress me out on what things should be, what needs to get done and what doesn't get done. But here's the thing. But if you choose to live in a community like that, you need to understand that you need to abide by those rules. That is on you. If you're the kind of person that you don't like rules, and you want to have that urban attitude where you used to living in a large city, and you ain't got to worry about the next person, and the next person ain't got to worry about you. You go to Trader Joe, you might see the same person or people every single week, and you never say shit to them. If that's the kind of person you are, then you should not buy an Akiya. You should not live in a rural community in Japan. It is definitely not for you. If you want that whole experience, because what I'm saying to you is this: when you purchase the Akiya, you are buying that entire experience in Japan and rural community, entire experience. So be willing to support the community. Yes, you got to be willing to support the community. And what I mentioned earlier about joining those festivals. Accept that you are watched and judged. Now, I have myself, I agree with supporting the community, because I support my community. Like I said, I do my garbage right, and I make sure that everything is done that way. And I accept that I'm always being watched and judged. Yes, I do accept in Japan that I am myself being watched and judged in my little community as well. That's why I, behave the way I do. Look, I don't have any problem behaving here in Japan. I don't have any problem following the rules in Japan. But my thing is, I'm not going to move in a community, live in a community that has rules that I myself do not agree with. And what my thing is, and what you should be too, is my thing has to do with time. What you don't need is somebody knocking on your door at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday when you and your family are getting ready to take the Shinkansen to, like in my case, to Toyama or Nagano, or getting ready to drive up to Niigata City to see my in-laws, or go somewhere else nice. That's never happened to me. But you don't need somebody knocking on your door saying, hey, John-san, oh, hey, this is Mr. Tanaka. Hey, by the way, we need you at this community event to get ready for this thing, so we're going to need you today. So can you come after breakfast, please? Thank you. Now, of course, you're not going to do what you don't want to do. So let's say you don't come. You don't do that. Okay, if you don't follow the rules, if you don't participate, what's going to happen is, after a while, you're going to notice that you're going to start getting treated really bad. And then if you have children in school, your children are going to start getting bullied, and your wife is going to start getting harassed everywhere she goes, especially if you're married to a Japanese woman, right? So they won't say, they can't make you do anything, but they will make your life a living hell if you don't follow rules, and if you don't do the things that they they said you need to do. Okay, they will do that. They talk a lot. And there's always a guy, like I said, there's always, because, Japanese, the hierarchy, like, for example, bullying in school, a bully in the 5th grade, and he will be still bullying that same students or students even when he's 30 years old. If they live in the same area, they will still feel like that person is a bully to them, and they will still fear that person. That carries a long way. And that's what I'm saying. So that's why you might be saying, well, hey, I talked to the town mayor and he said it was okay. Yeah, but Mr. Tanaka said it's not. And that Mr. Tanaka is a community leader, and he's been a leader for a long time, and he's got a lot more pull than that mayor or whoever you think you thought had pull. So that's how that works. Also, to give you an example, if you piss these people off to the point of no end, you won't even really have a place. Nobody will pick your garbage up at your place. Your garbage that you bring to the bin, guess what? Every day you go back to put more garbage, you'll see all your shit tagged. They're like, we don't take this, we don't take this. So you have to personally drive your shit down to the big disposal plant and drop it off yourself all the time. See? So they can make things really harsh. This one couple, they came out there, and the 34-year-old young couple in their 30s, and he had a wife and 2 kids, and they moved to Eada, that community. And, he was moved from rural. He got coerced by the government to move out there, and he was working remotely. And then he decided that he wanted to try to do a maple and ginger business. Well, he was doing things for the community because he was required to do 20% of his, he was probably 80%, 20% of his time was required to spend helping the community out. So his business didn't go too well, so he stopped doing something. He was doing something else, and they sent him a letter and said, hey, we noticed that you're not doing this. You need to do this. And he said, well, no, I am doing something because I'm doing this. I'm contributing by cutting the grass and, taking care of the landscape around the city. They said, no, you got to do this too. So he said no because that's wasting his time. Guess what happened to this guy? This guy, he was harassed. His kids started getting bullied. His wife started getting harassed all the time. He was getting harassed. He was getting so much stress from the community that he ended up having to be hospitalized. And the doctors told him it was because you just experienced so much stress. So they decided to move to another community, a better community, which turned out to be good. But right as they're packing up, the last day, guess what happened? Somebody threw a arson. Threw a fireball through their window. It started a fire in their house. The firemen came and put it out in this old house that they were renting. And guess what? Everything in their house was ruined by the water. All their personal belongings. And this lady's carrying a baby on her back. They didn't care if she had a baby on her back or nothing. They didn't care about their kids, about him, nothing. You didn't follow the rules, you're gonna get chastised, and you're gonna get attacked. Luckily for them, they moved to a better community and they're okay. But like I said, these are things that could happen to you. So as a Westerner, you're all happy. You bought that Akiya. You're like, yeah, you spent $200,000 on refurbishing. Yeah, I'm good to go. But in a few years, like this one couple that owned a restaurant on the beachside community, 6 years, they were doing really well for 6 years, using local companies, local ingredients, helping local farmers out with their bringing food in. But the one guy, the head of the community, wanted that space so much that he sent them a letter and saying, your business is going to have to close because I want that space you got now. And they were in total shock. They couldn't believe it. They just could not believe it. But because they wouldn't leave, they started getting threats, started getting this, that, the other. So what I'm saying is you may feel good for a few years. You may be like, yeah, I'm living good and I'm loving my house in Japan or my Akiya, whatever. And then you don't follow those rules and you don't follow the way things go. Things start piling up. You missed out on this. You missed out on that. You couldn't shovel snow that day because your back was hurting. Whatever the case may be to help the community out. They remember shit. And before you know it, now you're feeling very uncomfortable and you done spent well over $250,000 on that place that you're living in. You see what I'm saying? So that's why you need to do your research. Yeah, I always said accept that you're watching judge, which I agree with. Be willing to build intimate relationships. We don't usually, Westerners don't have problem building intimate relationships. You know, like I said, you will never make friends in Japan, but you're going to meet a lot of associates. You're going to have a lot of associations with people because keep in mind, those people that they say you got to build intimate relationships with in that local community, yeah, you build intimate relations, but guess what? Those relationships are only as good as you following the rules. Because like I said, what will happen is once you start following the rules or you start pulling on and shit, those relationships are going to go by the wayside. So are they really friends? No. They were just there to make sure that you follow the rules. And the last thing, be willing to help others during natural disasters. I agree with that. Because when we had our earthquake, our big earthquake, I was just going around the neighborhood saying, hey, you guys okay? Everybody okay? You know, anybody I seen on the street. If I wasn't going to knock on the doors, but if I saw them on the street, I'd say, hey, oh, Sato-san, are you okay? Was everything okay? Oh, yeah, Yoshikawa-san, okay, you know, everything's fine. Yeah, everything's fine. Oh, they would be asking me too, hey, everything. So you want to, you know, when you see somebody, you know, we didn't get that damage that they got in Noto, but we got the big shakes, and everybody was pretty scared, of course. We got a 5.6, and George says, shit, they got a 7.6, but shit, 5.6 ain't no bullshit. You shaking, this shit's shaking, right? So, of course, you want to ask people if they're okay after that. So, I get that. And then sometimes, you know, you may be in a situation where, hey, you know, can you help out this old lady, get her bag to take to the Hinanjo, which is an evacuation center. If I'm right there, yeah, of course, I'll be more than happy to help her with her bag to put it in her car so she can drive to the Hinanjo. That's okay. And then you ask her, are there any other people in your house that need to go? No. Those kind of things, I get it. That's a no-brainer. So that one I agree with. So, yeah, I probably agree with a few of them on here. But what I'm saying to you is this. Don't be so naive when you're purchasing an Akiya to where you don't understand that there's rules that come attached to purchasing an Akiya. That's all I want to say. I don't know what I'm going to call this video. I'll get up here and watch it. I'll listen to it again and call it something. But I just want you to be aware of that Japan is a nation of rules, and that you need to understand that even you may not see the rules up front, but you will eventually find out what those rules are, and you will eventually find out how the hierarchy is in your rural community that you're going to live in. Those things don't work in big cities and bigger areas. People don't give a shit. But in those rural areas where the community is close-knit, you will need to be cognizant of what's going on. All right? So this is BSP. I will talk to you guys later on.